You are listening to the Bright Life Podcast, all about ways to stay inspired, chase your dreams, and find more gratitude in the highs and lows of the journey. I'm your host, Jessica Johnson. I'm a business owner, a part-time digital nomad, a self-growth junkie, a believer in other big-hearted women, and am all about sharing tips, tricks, lessons learned, and encouragement so we can all live our biggest, brightest lives. You ready? Let's do this. Welcome back. I'm so excited that you're spending the next 15 minutes with me. I hope it really encourages and inspires you for the week or weekend ahead. And today's episode is one that I think you're really going to resonate with. It's all about shining, how to let yourself shine. Because as women, especially, I think we come with all different ideas and trainings and cultural conditionings around what is okay with shining, what it can look like, what it can't, what it means about us. There's a lot of pressure from both sides to now take up space and to get big, and social media introduces this whole crazy element around you should be out there and you should be showing your life, but then also there's sometimes this conflict and feeling of conditioning around play small, don't take up space, be loud but not too loud, have ideas but don't be too pushy, things like that. Like we all know, we don't have to make a whole episode around that, but shining is such an interesting one to unravel and to embrace in your own life. And so I want to share an episode around some ideas around shining. Shining is chapter 9 of my book, Your Bright Life. So every single week for the past 9 weeks, we've been going through one of the chapters and just touching on a little element that complements the actual chapter in my book. So no overlap. So if you haven't gotten the book yet, definitely check it out on Amazon or Audible or Barnes & Noble website. But I wanted to honor that chapter with this episode around shining and just some ideas on it so you can get a taste of it. And if you love it, go read the book for something way more in depth. But here's what came up when I thought of shining and I was thinking of you and what might be supportive to think about. So one of the things that I have learned around shining is that, or really any lesson in general, is that if there's something that you are afraid of, there may also be part of you that really wants it. So the fascinating thing about healing is that things tend to come into our awareness when we're ready to heal them. So for example, it doesn't even have to be shining, but if you look at it in other areas, part of you may really fear a relationship, like a healthy, loving relationship, but that's because there's probably part of you that actually really deeply desires that thing as well. Part of you may fear going on stage to speak, but the only reason you're thinking about going on stage to speak is because part of you really desires it. There's a lot of people that aren't thinking about this thing, that aren't getting all worked up or even giving it two thoughts of fearing it because it's just not something that they want or even pay attention to in their life. So I think that you even realizing that you have some fears around shining or visibility, it resonates because there's something in your heart that is ready to resolve that. It is ready to look at it and move past it. If you wouldn't have this fear, if it wasn't something that your heart was ready to figure out. You know what I mean? So I think that's part of the first step is acceptance around and curiosity around, I have this fear around shining. But instead of thinking it's a fear to stay away from, maybe I only have the fear because it's something that on some level, my heart really wants to step into, and it's in my awareness because I'm ready to finally take a look at it and to resolve it. So that's kind of the first piece. And then what I would do is almost open up a journal, and I've done this as well, but I'd open up a journal and think through, what does it mean for me to shine? In what ways do I want to shine? In what ways have I been holding back or playing small when it comes to shining or dimming your light when it comes to shining? can be really interesting to see what comes up because it may be in more ways than you even realize. So you may be thinking about wanting to start a podcast, but when you really start journaling, you realize that there's ways in your relationships where you're holding back. There's conversations that you're afraid to take up space in. Maybe there's a promotion that you want at work that you're not stating right now. So it can be interesting to just make a list of all the ways that you want to step into shining and what it looks like for you. Because it doesn't mean 100,000 followers on social media necessarily, and unless that's what comes up for you. For you, it could just mean in your own life, your own relationships, dynamics, career, it has this feeling of limitlessness or taking up space or having the hard conversations or saying what you really want. So spend some time seeing what comes up for you. And then I would think through, what have I been taught around shining? Because there tends to be a lot of stuff from our childhood, from our schools, from our religions, from our just society, social media advertisements, things, parents even meaning well in many cases, but still teaching certain dynamics around shining. So think back to when you were younger, what was either taught explicitly or subtly around saying what you really want, around being loud, around being confident, about owning your strengths, about taking up space, about playing as big as you possibly could. And just see what comes up there, because that's where you're going to find a lot of your conditioning around whether it's been safe to shine or not. And only once you're aware can you really shift that. The third piece then is if you start to realize, okay, so we're thinking through, I have this fear around shining, but that's because part of me really wants it on some level. And then you're getting clear on here's what it might look like for me in my career, my life, my finances, my relationship, my conversations, how I dress, how I talk, how I carry myself. You're getting clear on what you've been taught around shining. Then I think a piece that you can access today is even asking yourself the question, how can I shine today? So giving yourself a little bit of a way every single day to access that and to allow your nervous system to start to feel safe with it because it becomes part of your everyday. So it could be doing a post on social media. Shining today could look like wearing a bright lipstick or getting dressed up for the day. It could look like smiling freely to the cashier. It could look like asking for a raise. It could look like taking a compliment. There's so many little subtle ways to start to shine and take up space and get loud in your own life. And so there's something about that then that I think makes it easier in the big ways. So I have an episode on this where if there's ever anything that you're scared of, you can practice in a lot of little ways in your life, which makes it easier then to do the bigger scary thing because you've now normalized it in your life. You've allowed your nervous system to acclimate. So it's not as afraid of taking this leap because now it's felt like a lot of little steps along the way to neutralize that feeling. And so I think shining can be similar, where if you just ask yourself every day, how can I shine today? And then you go back and you reference that journal that you just made around what does shining look like in your own life and relationships and style, whatever it may be. You have this whole list of ideas for little ways that you can start to own your own brightness or step into that. And then the last piece, I think, for any thing you're trying to shift is you can always ask for support too. So whether you believe in the universe, in DNA, in God, whatever you choose to call your higher power, why not ask for support? I think that's something that can be so helpful in anything that you have recently gotten awareness to and that you're ready to shift. And then it's almost like be ready for it, because then it tends to come in and shift some things and kind of cause some waves in your life. But the flip side is you come out of it feeling like someone who is more free and more limitless, and almost like the container and capacity of your life just grows with that newfound freedom to shine and take up space and to live at the fullest level and play full out. So that's kind of what I would think about shining is, if you're afraid of it, there may be part of you that really wants it and is ready to look at it a little bit closer and resolve it. How do you want to shine? What does it look like in your life? It doesn't have to look like anyone else's. What have you been taught around shining? And then what are little ways every single day that you can allow yourself to shine and to normalize that in your body and your heart and your life? And then ask for support if you feel called to, and trust that you will then be given plenty of opportunities to step into this and to resolve it and to become someone who can really shine to the fullest in your own way. So again, there's a whole chapter on this in my book. This actually isn't even part of it. It's a whole bunch of other thoughts and ideas, but I wanted to make sure it was different. So if you are interested in the book, then check it out on Amazon or Audible, where I narrate it. And if not, I hope this gives you some ideas to start stepping into your own power and greatness and brightness as well. Thank you so much for listening in. If you love this episode, I have 2 things you are going to love. One is a free copywriter training full of 5 steps to build a profitable copywriting business as your own boss, no matter how much experience you're starting with. Copywriting is what took me from a 9-to-5 to freedom as my own boss, to travel, choose my schedule, replace my corporate income, and have time to work on creative projects like this podcast. And I'd love to give other women the same opportunity. Another, of course, is my book, Your Bright Life. You can find it on Amazon or Audible, where I narrate the audiobook, so it's kind of like a podcast in book form. All of these things are in the podcast show notes. Thank you again for listening. I appreciate you and your review so much, and I'll see you back here next Thursday.